Hello, my name is John Esler, and I'd like to share with you what motivates me to fight for racial equity. I grew up in a middle-class white community in Albany, New York. I had no knowledge of poverty, and I knew no diversity. In school, we were taught an incomplete and inaccurate version of our country's history. We were taught that slavery was bad, but that we abolished it with the Civil War. And then during the Civil Rights era, we made further racial progress, which created the just and equal society that America professes to be. I spent the next 40 years living in my white upper-class bubble, building my business, raising my family, and generally enjoying my white privileges. I was proud to be an American, but I did have blinders on. I had no idea of the conscious and unconscious role that so many white people have continued to play, which has resulted in the continued suffering of so many African Americans and other communities of color. But the murder of George Floyd burst my bubble, and it ignited my learning about America's racial and economic inequities. Some of the books I read were Caste, The Color of Law, Dark Money, and The Sum of Us. These authors shook my belief, and it made me aware of my own ignorance. I learned new details that I hadn't previously known about the horrible implications of the Jim Crow era, and that what actually followed the Civil War was over 100 years of domestic terrorism, the worst of which was our convict leasing program and over 4,000 lynchings of Black Americans. I learned about redlining, the Exclusionary Homestead Act, and the last 40 years of mass incarceration, which has resulted in going from about 230,000 imprisoned in 1980 to over 2.2 million today. And it has unfairly targeted Black males. But one of the most important things I learned was that racism is a disease that inflicts a terrible cost on all of us, not just some of us. I'm deeply disturbed that I was taught an incomplete version of our country's history because it's a version that led me to live and act in ignorance most of my adult life. But learning the truth does inspire me to help take the blinders off others who have yet to learn the whole truth of our nation's complicated history. While I do love America still, I cannot deny that much of its greatness was built on generations of oppressed people. So I'm on a personal journey, and part of that journey is not to look back, but to look forward. While we can't change what happened generations before us, we can learn and reform policies and practices that still result in systemic racism today. To be part of the solution, we started the Esler Family Foundation, which has a mission to improve racial equity in communities nationwide. My hope is that many more people will join us in the work of building what Dr. King calls our beloved community, and that is a nation rooted in justice, equal opportunity, nonviolence, and love. Thanks for listening.